I just want to say that I wasn't always present and able to even make these videos, see myself, and use my physical voice, right, to speak what it is for me. So in this video, I'm just gonna be making a lot of drawings and talking about that, about how the art practice and my art process has really given me my physical voice back and allowed me to come out of myself. This is a different conversation that you don't really hear a lot, but I want to talk about that because it's so important to my journey, and I'm pretty adamant and certain that if you stay in your art practice and all kinds of emotions, and learn to focus on the energy and circulate that and keep creating through the process, that it will change your life. At least I know it has for me. So I am one example, and I'm sure other people have this experience, but it's important to say that there are these other ways and create these conversations, and that's actually how my F.A.C.E program has become developed by me, through me, is through the art practice that I'm in constantly in my process, and it's a highly process driven program, and then through the energetics, the shamanic understanding, which is like ethereal and esoteric of nature, but that's to me where abstraction is derived from. So it makes sense that I would put the two things together and create this thing. And we focus on, the energy, the emotion, which opens to more intuition, and then integration and what that means on a long scale, and body of work. But body of work means, breathing into the life of that extension, and also getting closer to what we really want to say, not just what we think we should say. Very important. How do you show up when it's hard is one of my main interests and questions that I'm always asking myself and doing daily. And you really find a lot of growth when you can stick to that moment as opposed to just when it's easy, because you find out what you're made of when it's really hard. And are you gonna stay in the game? And if you can do that in your art and creative practice, it's gonna change your life, because you'll show up differently to these other areas. It will start to come into the expressions, and that's exciting, because then you don't have to hide, and you can move beyond the appearances and all this stuff and just live into what it is for you, and find the resonance accordingly. It's a really it's really about what we want to live into and express, right? I'm borrowing from this experience here, that this was a couple summers ago. Just to me, drawing can be with the paint, and drawing can be a poem. I guess you'd call it writing, but as you're drawing, sometimes a poem can come out. So that's how I'm seeing the interrelation, and finding that experience in that understanding. And it's my understanding and how it's come to be for me. So I'm gonna take this idea, which I really love. What I loved about working with these cards is you can really do a mix and match experience. All of a sudden this can go together, or it can be obvious, and this would be real obvious. Take those together. It helps you learn how to see relationships and space in a different kind of way. There'll be a lot more exercises like this in the F.A.C.E program, which it's about learning how to look, right? And there's many ways to look, that's for sure. But right now I'm just gonna work on some blank ones. 6 fit on the surface pretty well. Now, these are separate, yeah, I'm gonna think about them as a whole in a way, and kind of maybe move across the page.
Showing up to the moment wasn't always easy for me, and depending on the day, it still could be challenging, but I'll still show up. The difference is that I've learned to use any of the emotion to like enter more deeply into the mark in the moment, and I'm willing to investigate what it means instead of, you know, fear it. I choose to face it, you know, and this is happening in like the mark making and art making and drawing practice and process, but you know, it also goes much deeper into life and really allowing ourselves to open to the sides we maybe shut down or run away from internally. And I've come to find that the non-representational drawing practice and consistently staying in my art practice has brought myself like back online, including my like energetic, shamanic, and spiritual practice, right? So it's never any one thing, but I would say being heavily in my art and drawing practice in my own way has really brought back, you know, my physical voice in the sense where I can like enter and open and see myself in the world and of the world. Like before, I struggled a lot with that, and I'll also take a strong point of view and say, yes, this is what it is for me, and this is who I am, and these are my strange things, and these are my silly things, and this is what I love the most about my art practice. And it's going to be individual, right? As it should be, and it is different for us. But sometimes we can't really turn to the thing that's most interesting because of whatever fear we're holding, or, you know, sometimes it's hard to admit that deeper truth about what we really desire to express. And sometimes it's just scary. But when you start to look, you'll learn to see and kind of invite this stuff in, and kind of learn to like dance with all of it in the creative process and the creation process. Things will really start to change and rearrange, and you'll become someone different entirely. Like any practice that you're committed to really will help you do. This is just art and creativity and opening up to more of the internal expressions, right? To externalize it into the mark and the color, line, shape, and form. And there's many ways to experience the process and investigate the practice and just show up to the moment. And we can like learn to find ourselves in all of it and really start to express not just in the artworks or like the creative work, but in our lives, and show up more fully as ourselves. We're not like turning things away, and we're not running away. You know, we're diving in and like wondering, well, what could this mean if I did this, even though maybe I shouldn't, but I really want to. So we just become explorers of all of it, really. We had done the 3 sets of 6, so there's 18 things. But now we could start to play with the differences of the relationships that we've built within. Because we've done that all in one moment, there's going to be similarities in that
expression, you know. It's kind of just mixing and matching and creating the story with the marks and maybe the words even, right? And seeing what maybe goes together, like this says I never knew. Or maybe you don't like the because a word can be a mark, a letter form. I'm interested in letter forms in a lot of different ways. They show up abstractly often, but I'm also interested in writing more and more into the work. So we just like build the relationships and build these understandings. You know, sometimes what I'm interested in is a clash. You know, I like to see that awkward, like it's a little off, it shouldn't belong there, but it does, but it doesn't. I like to push that all the time in my work. And you know, it can always change. Well, that one's nice. You know, and then you can start to see like, oh, maybe what I would need here is like another, something that's darker, kind of like offset that. There's many ways you can learn to start to look at different kinds of relationships and contrasts, and not just contrast, like physical contrast. I have this dark and a light, right? But these like metaphorical contrasts. I'm really interested in that, and that's to me where abstraction is derived from, is in that mystery and metaphor. And of course we define it for ourselves, but this is just how I come to see it over time and what's my highest interest. There isn't really a right or wrong, it's just what you're most interested in and how you then want to talk about it, and then that kind of becomes the teaching, right? So it's just about playing with space and time and experience and mark.